So welcome back to the channel, everyone. Triple M here, and finally about to get the PC build on the way. I know I've been teasing you guys for seems like months now about this awesome build that I'm gonna do, but it's finally starting right now, and definitely want your input in this one. So I want to know how much experience you guys have with building PC, and that will kind of help me determine how I want to go about this PC build. So if you guys have a lot of experience building PC, no experience at all, completely novice, drop that in the comment section below. If you guys are looking into building a PC and you like that step-by-step instructions, I have a lot of quality parts here, guys. Some are high-end, some are mid-tier. Definitely want to give you guys a walk around of what the components are before we start building. So definitely want to let you guys know that this is going to be broken up in a couple videos. One of the videos I want to focus on the case. This is one of the most important decisions that you're going to make when building a PC. Secondly, I want to focus, of course, on the build, what components go where, how to properly mount your components, and one of the tasks I took on for this build is I want to make it a full water-cooled system. So this is going to be a custom loop, which means I will have to bend the tubing myself, I will have to put the fittings on myself, and it does take a lot of effort, precision, just to make sure this is done right. You don't want to set up a computer and then just have water or coolant leak all over and destroy your components. So definitely want to focus on the case, focus on the build, and also want to focus on the cooling system, which is going to be a complete video. Like I said, drop your comments in the comment section below. Let's go ahead and take a look at the components. So the case that I chose for this build is the Cooler Master H500m. Now this case, I actually fell in love with it, looking at some of the reviews, looking at some of the features, and that's why I decided to do a full video just showing you guys what to expect from this case and what your different options are. Now CPU of choice was the Ryzen 9. This is a 3rd generation processor, guys. This is a 3900X, top of the line CPU from AMD, and 12 core 24 thread processor, guys. This is one of the best and fastest CPUs on the market. The max boost for this is 4.6 gigahertz, and the base clock speed is 3.8 gigahertz. Like I said, this is one of the best CPUs on the market. This is comparable to the Intel 9900K, and can't go wrong with this processor. It is kind of pricey, but if you're building your PC to be future proof, definitely recommend it in my opinion. Now the graphics card I chose for this build is the Nvidia GeForce. This is the RTX 2070 Super. This is a brand new card released about a month ago, guys. This card is awesome. So here's some of the specifications. And I will be adding this card to my water loop system as well. So I will pull off the fans and I'll put the cooling block on there. And like I said, I'll make a dedicated video for that. So here's the RAM I chose, Corsair Vengeance. This is DDR4 4, 8 gigabyte 6, so 32 gigs total, and the speed on that is 3600 megahertz. Of course, you can see it does have RGB, so I should be able to program some good effects with this. As far as the SSD for putting my operating system on, I went with the Aorus NVMe 4th generation SSD. Now the 4th generation SSD, guys, gives you a lot of speed. So if you look at it right there, guys, PCIe 4 gives you speeds up to 5,000 megabytes per second. So this thing is built for speed. So the board that I chose for this build is the Aorus. This is the X570. Of course, this is PCIe 4, compatible with the newest generation, guys. The reason I chose this particular board is because it checks all the boxes. It does give me the USB headers that I require. It does give me that PCIe 4 compatibility that I'm looking for. So you're gonna see this board once I unbox it, guys, and it does look good as well, and it does have some RGB lighting built in. Now we talked about the liquid cooling a little bit, and these are the main components of the cooling system. That's not only going to make this look great, but it's also going to keep my system cool to give me a lot more options if I do choose to overclock it in the future. Now this is part of the Hydro series from Corsair, guys. They make some of the best products, PC components, in my opinion. They are kind of pricey, but most of the time you pay for what you get, and you're getting quality when you go with Corsair. Now first we have the pump from Corsair. This is the XD5, and of course this is RGB, so you can't program the lights. Now what's cool about this pump is that it's self-cool, guys. No need for a fan underneath. What happens is the liquid flowing through the reservoir would actually cool the components. Now next we have the XC7, and this is the CPU water block essentially. This will sit on top of your CPU. We'll have the liquid running through it. It does have RGB RGB built in, so you can go ahead and program it. And this is ideal, especially if you want to go with overclocking. This will keep your system nice and cool. Here's a third component of that robust cooling system I'm trying to put together. This is the XG7, and this is for the GPU. So as I mentioned before, I will be removing the fan from the GPU, and I will mount this guy on here, get it sealed up, and get the liquid flowing through it, and that should keep my GPU graphics card nice and cool as well. Now for the power supply, I went with the HX1000 from Corsair, and the reason I chose such a beefy power supply is because I want something that's going to be future-proof. In essence, I'm going to have a lot of lighting on this, a lot of components running, and I just want to make sure that when everything's all said and done, if I wanted to add additional hardware or components, I won't have an issue with power. All right, so a couple other things. I got some system fans from Corsair, and of course RGB as well. Do have the Corsair Commander Pro, and this will control the fans as well as the pumps for my cooling system. Do have a couple 360 radiators, but the plan is to put 2 in the loop, and we'll see how that works out once everything's all said and done. In addition, we do have some tubing for the water loop. All right, I will have to go in and bend these myself. Excited about that. Do have the coolant for the system as well. This is clear, but you can add colors once you get everything all said and done. Bottle that you put the coolant in, put it on top of the reservoir. Self-explanatory. This is my PCIe extender, and what this will do is allow me to essentially put my graphics card in sideways, guys. So how I'm going to set up the loop is that the graphics card, instead of sitting like this, it's going to be sitting like this, and that way you can see the RGB as well as the liquid flow on the side. We have our thermal compound go on top of the CPU, of course. And this guy right here is a jumper, guys. What this does, it goes on the 15-pin connector on your motherboard, and this allows you to turn on the pump while you're filling it. That way you don't have to fully turn on the system and have the risk of damage in. So that's going to be in the water loop video as well. We have some fittings for the tubing. We also have a fan splitter from Corsair. So that's most of the components for the build. I do plan on getting a new keyboard and mouse as well for this build. Not urgent right now when I have so much going on and so many components. So let me know where you guys are as far as your proficiency or your level of expertise with building PCs, and that will kind of dictate how I go about building this computer and present it to you guys. So drop your comments in the comment section below. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. Share this video if you think it might help someone. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, so as you can see, this is a pretty big case. Nice little packaging by Cooler Master. So let's see if we can go ahead and get it out. The first thing you'll notice that this has a nice look and nice finish. So 2 large fans in the front. These are 200mm fans, and they are addressable RGB, which means you can use software to program different colors at the same time. So very nice looking front. It is all mesh up front. However, they did go ahead and include another glass panel. That way, if you want to go ahead and switch out the mesh, you can go ahead and do so, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So on the top, you do have the Cooler Master logo right here. This is also the power switch, and this is RGB around it as well. You do have your microphone jack, you do have your headphone jack. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 USB 3 ports, and you also have one USB 3.1 Type C. This is another reason why I got this case, guys. Now you do have a reset button right here, and you do also have a LED right here in the front. Over to the main side, this is where all your good stuff will be displayed. So this is a showpiece for your build, and you do have a main screw right here. It isn't a hand tight screw, and once you do open it, guys, go ahead and flip it like that. You can see it leans a little bit, but it won't fall down, and to take it out, just go ahead and pull it all the way up like so. Cooler Master did a good job putting this case together. A lot of cool features in this case, guys, and we'll start at the front. So in the front, you do have mounts. If you guys want to mount Radiator, whether it's a 360 or 240 Radiator, you can go ahead and mount it in here. This right here is completely removable, so if you guys wanted to mount 360 and go all the way down, you can go ahead and pull this piece out to accommodate that. On top right here, this is a universal pump adapter, so if you guys have a liquid cooling kit, which I'm going to put in, you do have the mount right here where you can mount your pump. You do have a nice GPU support bracket, so a lot of you guys have the sagging GPUs when you put them in horizontally. Well, you do have this right here, which you can put right here. His GPU will sit on top, and that will keep it from sagging under the pressure. Now this is adjustable, so it does have some screws right here, so you can go ahead and move this bracket up and down. They also have a railing system where you can mount reservoirs depending on your personal preference, or you can choose to put SSDs in here as well. So you do have some cable management holes that goes to the back, 3 of them. You do have SSDs, and these will actually facing in the back, and I'll show you guys how to do that once I get into the build. But you also do have SSD mounts right here in the front, guys. How that will work, you'll screw the screws directly into the SSD and then go ahead and just put them down into the grommets right here. Pretty cool. Now in the back, they do have another cooling fan. This one is not RGB. Plan to swap that out with a different fan when I get into the build. Now here's the back of the unit. Up top left, you do have your IO shield. You do have a thumb screws that will release the top, and I'll show you how that works in a little bit. You do have mesh right here, guys, and you can see it does have some different sliders. So depending on what you want to do in the back, you might have some options to move either a fan or another radiator up and down. So depending on what you want to do, you do have some flexibility right here in the back. Further down, if you guys are planning to mount your GPU vertically like I'm planning to do, you can go ahead and utilize this and use the PCIe riser to make sure everything is nice and safe. Now you do have your standard PCIe cutouts right here, and below you do have your cutout for your graphics card, and if you look below that, you do have a mesh. So rule of thumb, you always want to try to mount your power supply with the fans facing down if you do have airflow in the bottom. If you don't have airflow, it's okay to mount it with the fan facing up. That slides back in. So this, of course, pull it out once in a while, clean it out. It will collect dust once the system is running. So for the power supply, you'll go ahead and screw it in directly to this plate right here, and this comes off. It is kind of tight right now. So this piece comes off. You'll go ahead and mount your power supply on here, screw it back in, and use this to secure it on the actual case. Now on the back of the case, you do have another plexiglass, guys, and same procedure to remove it. Twist this down. This part comes down. It will lock in place like that. Then you can go ahead and just pull it up. So another cool thing, and I think this is one of the selling features for this case, is that since this does have glass on both sides, it gives you a great option to hide your cables and make everything look neat. So this right here does pop off. These panels, they pop off as well as this bottom piece right here, but I'm just going to leave this on for this overview. So as you guys can see, so many cables right here in the back, and imagine if this guy wasn't there to block everything and you had glass, that will essentially show everything. So you have a lot of pass-throughs right here, so you can go ahead and route your power supply stuff as well as the cable from the front up to where it's needed, and this will keep everything hidden. Now you see underneath, you do have all your cables tucked. Let's go ahead and pull that out. Alright, you have a moisture packet right here. You do have a USB-C header, a couple of things for the audio jacks, as well as the USB ports on top, and we'll get into that when we connect everything to the motherboard. But what I wanted to show you guys again is that you do have drive trays right here underneath, guys. So you do have storage options right here. You also do have spots for SSDs on the other side, so pretty cool. So the last thing I want to show you is just how to remove the top from the case, guys. So you do have a screw right here. It is a thumb screw. However, you might have to use a screwdriver the first time you remove it. So unscrew this like this, and you need to take it all the way out. This part comes out, guys. So you do have another huge mesh right here. This is removable. You have screws right here, and like I said, you can do other things, add more fans, radiators, whatever you want to do. You do have a lot of options up top, and like I said, I do plan to take full advantage of all the cooling options and features of this case. So this case, again, I will be leaving an Amazon link to my store if you guys want to check it out. I also have all the components I'll be using for this build in my Amazon store, so feel free to check it out. So that was my overview of the Cooler Master H500 case. Like I said, this was the best case for me. This is a mid tower or mid case, an ATX case. I love it. A lot of cool features, looks great, a lot of cooling options, a lot of viewing angles where you can view the components inside. Just can't wait to start this build, so let's go ahead and start putting some components together. So today we're going to be installing some of the key components to the build. So first thing, we're going to be installing the CPU with the motherboard. We're also going to be installing the SSD as well as the RAM. Now this is the Aorus X570 master motherboard. This motherboard, of course, is one of the newer releases. It is PCIe 4 ready. So let's go ahead and open it up. So there's the main board. Do have some stickers and badges. We have an installation guide, user's manual. Got another badge right here, it just fell out of the booklet, I guess. And underneath we do have various cables. We do have some SATA cables. We do have the connectors for the power switches and so on. This is the Wi-Fi antenna, other screws, and mainly this is for mounting your SSD and other components. Here's the board itself. Does have RGB here and here and here as well. Does have a built-in fan. This is new with most of the X570 boards that we're seeing coming out. Does have your SSD slots right here, and we're going to be installing one of those today. First, let's peel off some of these plastics. Here's our I/O in the back, guys. So we do have the antenna, Wi-Fi antenna. You have the CMOS reset, flash. You have USBs all over the place, 2 Ethernet ports, SPDIF for the optical audio, and you also have different connections for your audio. Here's the back, nice shield to keep everything nice and protected. The first thing we're going to install is the CPU. So this CPU, before, like I said, it is the 3900X from AMD. Brand new CPU. It does come with a cooling fan. We won't be using that, of course, because we're doing liquid cool, but let me just show you what's in the box. Here's the fan itself. Like I said, nice fan, decent fan, but won't be using it for this build. So before we install the CPU, one thing I want to point out, guys, is that you want to make sure the triangles are lined up. So if you look in the corner right here, you can see there's a triangle right there in the corner. But if you look right here, you can see there's a tiny triangle right there as well, and that's where you're going to line it up. Now when you do put this in, guys, you want to avoid forcing it in. It should just drop right in. Make sure it's secure, then you can go ahead and clip it in. All right, so we're going to take it out, holding it on the sides. Visual inspection, everything looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and release the lever right here on the board. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and line up the 2 triangles. There you go. So just fell in, guys. You can see it is secure. And we're going to go ahead and put this back down and clip it. And that's it for the CPU installation. Next, we're going to install our RAM. I went with 4 sticks of 8 gigabytes for a total of 32 gigs. Now these are RGB as well. Before we install the RAM, if we're installing 2 sticks instead of 4, you see that it does have preference. So you would install an A2 and B2 if you're only doing 2 sticks. But since I'm doing 4, it doesn't really matter that much. All right, we're gonna go ahead and open 4. So we're gonna look for the cutouts, and we're just gonna give it a nice firm push, and it should go ahead and snap in. And same thing, you want to avoid touching any of the contacts if possible, guys. There we go. Nice and firm. It does take quite a bit of pressure to make sure that's in properly. All right, so we got our RAM installed. Next up, we're going to go ahead and install our SSD. This is the Aorus NVMe Generation 4 SSD. So super fast. This is a 1 terabyte drive. And this thing is a monster. It does come with its own heat sink, so I won't be able to put the actual SSD cover back on after this is installed. Do have a couple slots, 1, 2, or 3. I'm gonna go ahead and install it in the top slot. So that pops off, and what I was saying is that if you do have a normal size SSD, this acts as a heat sink, so you'll just pull this off and place it on top after the installation. Before I do anything, I need to install a standoff to match the hole for this one. So just measuring it up, look like the standoff that I'm going to use is the third one right here. So let's go ahead and we'll get that in. Then go ahead and line up the slots, drop it on, and now we're going to go ahead and secure it. All right, so we got our screw. And there we go, nice and secure. Now, next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and install the motherboard in the case. But before we do that, we want to make sure we have the standoffs in place. And what a standoff is basically this little screw. You can see it's very tiny, but it is important. So this will screw into your case like so. Basically allows your motherboard to be mounted not directly to the case, and that way you can avoid having shorts and other issues later on down the road. So two actually came pre-installed. Normally the case makers will have 2 in place already, and that will help you line everything up before you go ahead and install it. So I'm going to get the standoffs installed, then I'm going to put the motherboard, then I'm going to go ahead and secure the motherboard. So Cooler Master went ahead and provided this socket for the standoff. So fits on, top is a Phillips head, and you go ahead and secure those. So let's go ahead and get them in. So I do have the standoffs installed, guys. A total of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, these 2 came pre-installed. So very important when you're putting this in, guys, make sure your shield is lined up with the cutout in your back. Now, previous motherboards, they used to send the IO shield separately, but newer motherboards, they will go ahead and just have them mounted on the actual board itself. So let's go ahead and get it in. All right, so everything's secured. I'm gonna go ahead and use these screws that were provided in the case by Cooler Master. So we're gonna install 9 of these. So my plan is to essentially put 2 radiators in this case. One's going to be in the front and one's going to be up top. Situated, what I need to do is get this taken out. I'm going to put a radiator going down, and that might require some maneuvering. So I went ahead and removed 2 screws in the bottom here. Also removed 4 more screws from the back of the case, and that way I can go ahead and pull this guy off, and this part will come loose as well. Looking at this, you can see there's another slot right here where this needs to be removed in order to accommodate that 360 radiator. So in the back right here, you can see there's a little latch. Pull. Now we have a cutout for that radiator. So now's a good time if you guys are planning to put in drives. You can go ahead and remove them, put them in. Or if you do not plan on using this at all, you can go ahead and just essentially remove it. All right, so the radiator is going to run all the way down, guys. And in order to do that, I need to get to the front of the case. That way I can get that radiator secured. So let's go ahead and take the front of the case completely off, remove the fans, and we'll get the radiator in. So I have the fans removed, and now I have the choice. So I do have the 360 radiator right here. This will go inside facing this way, but I now have the option if I wanted to put 3 120mm fans in the front. Now, thought about it a little bit, went back to keeping the original 200mm fan, and what that goes to is just the look of the case. I don't want to change it that much. I do love the big fans in the front, and I just wanted to kind of keep the look and identity of the case. So drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know if you want me to put the 320mm Corsair fans in the front or just keep the original 200mm. So I am going to go ahead and mount the radiator. The ports will be in the front. It will be facing this way, and let's go ahead and put it in. I do think I want to take out the mesh and put in the glass insert, so let's go ahead and do that while we have the front removed. Alright, so that's all in. I'm going to put this to the side just to keep the excess weight off the build while I'm working on it, guys. So I don't think I'm going to end up using these dry base, so let's go ahead and just remove them. That will give me more space underneath for storage, or should I say for cable management. So one screw, and it's completely out. Probably won't be using this, but do have the option to put it back in if I need to. So I do have two SSDs that I want to put on this build, and let's go ahead and just get those secure. It's pretty simple. What I'm going to do is just put these in. These came with the actual case. This is how it'll look essentially. This just goes in, just presses on. Now you will need to add your SATA and power connection, but we'll do that a little bit later after we put in the power supply. So that's how it looked. Pretty straightforward. So let me just take these back off and we'll continue with the build. So next thing I want to do, I want to get the power supply in this build. Got a huge 1000 watt power supply right here. So let's go ahead and get it out of the box and get it in the build. So nice packaging by Corsair again. Do have peripheral up top, SATA, PCIe 4+4. On the bottom we do have the peripheral SATA again, and we do have the 24-pin ATX connection for the board. Also notice on the front there's a switch for single and multiple, and this refers to Corsair's rail system, guys. So on the single position, the full output of 12-volt system is available on all connections. If it goes to the multiple position, each individual connector has overcurrent protection, so no more than 40 can be delivered to any given cable. So up to you guys. I think multiple is a safe choice, so I'm just going to leave it there. We have a main switch right here, guys, as well as your plug. They also provide another goodie bag. Here's the main power plug, power cable. They have all kinds of connections in here. SATA, Molex, everything that you'll need to essentially get power to your components, guys. And of course, for this setup, it did come with this bracket in the case, guys. So we're gonna put this on like so. You can see it has the screw holes for you to line it up. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm gonna line it up like this, and we're gonna secure it with the 4 screws that were provided in the case. All right, so that's ready to go in. The other thing is the case itself does have a cutout. Not much to show, but it will show the Corsair logo, and might as well have something showing instead of nothing. So we're gonna go ahead and take this part out. We'll just kind of take a look at what it looks like once it's in. So not bad, better than nothing. So before we get this in, guys, we do have a lot to consider as far as cabling, what cables we want to use, and how we're going to route them. So good thing for me, I do have a nice cutout right here where I can route most of my cables. So let's go ahead and take this part off. You can see we have a lot of room right here to put our cables in. So let's take this back out first. So we're gonna go ahead and put it in. The good thing about the power supply, guys, is that it's easy to release. So if I need to remove cables, I can just quickly slide it back. So now I'm just going to go ahead and tuck everything right here. And I do anticipate removing a lot of these, but until I know exactly what I need, just going to leave it. Just let it stay in place, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the USB-C. This is for the front header. We also have the USB ports. These are the 4 USB ports right here, and this is USB. So let's go ahead and get those connected to the motherboard. And on the motherboard, the USB connection is right here. So what I want to do is just probably run it through here. And what I want to do is just, that's going to run through here. And most of it's going to be hidden once I put the backing plate and everything else in. So just make sure that's secure. So here's the USB-C connection. And if you look right here, it does say USB 3. Let me go ahead and zoom in. If you look closer right here, it does say USB 3.0. So these are where these guys are going to go essentially. So let's go ahead and run those down. And probably the best route is to run it through here over to the 2 ports. And like I said, don't worry about the cable management, guys. Remember that we do have this rail that we're going to put in, and that should hide a lot of those cables. But most of the cable management will be happening in the back of the case. So we're going to go ahead and set up a couple more important connections in the front header, guys. So we do have our hard drive indicator. We do have our power switch, power LED. We do have our power LED plus and minus. Now the best place to reference is in your manual, guys. It lays it out for you, let you know where the connection is, as well as what to connect where. So let me go ahead and get that connected. So starting with the hard drive LED, plus and minus. According to this, the bottom left is the plus. So I'm gonna flip it like this and slide that in. I also have the power switch, which is labeled PW up top. So the plus is towards the left, minus is towards the right. Alright, so guys, today we're going to start setting up our some of our other key components. We do have the CPU block right here. This will essentially sit on top of your CPU, thermal compound underneath, and then we'll have the liquid cooling passing the liquid through the fins, and that will essentially keep your CPU cool. We also have the reservoir. All right, we'll be putting that in place as well. And we also have the GPU block. This will sit on top of our graphics card, and essentially liquid will pass through, cools the fin, cool the components of the graphics card. Before we get into that, I want to show you guys a key component that came with the Corsair Hydro series. So essentially it's a hub for your RGB as well as your fans. So I do have 3 fans up top, 1 in the back, and I do have 2 that I'll be putting in the front. Kind of a semi push-pull system in the front for the radiator. But this guy's going to control everything from fan speed to RGB. So you can put up to 4 temperature sensors on this unit, guys, and pretty self-explanatory. It's right here. Plugs into the ports on the actual Commander Pro. Put the lead somewhere and it will just monitor temperature. So if you guys have specific spots that you want it to monitor as far as your temperature, you do have that option. So you do have 2 USB ports, and that's just spare in case you run out on your motherboard. Now further down, we do have our SATA connector or SATA power. So this will go to our power supply, and we do have a USB that will go to the motherboard. Now top, you do have the individual fans, guys. So 1 through 6, so 6 ports for the fans. You want to run this in sequence, guys, which will make sense. Some of the effects will be off if you don't run it in sequence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you definitely want to run that in order. Now further down, you do have LED controls, and that's for the fans as well. Now on the Commander Pro, I have one of these fan splitters connected as well. If you look in this port right here, this is one of the fan splitters. Put your fans in here. You do still have to supply power to it, and then this will go to the Commander Pro, and it's in port 1 right here. So that's a basic overview. Like I said, Commander Pro will allow you to use software once you build a PC to actually control your lights, control your fans, and it's a pretty cool addition to this build. So the reason I mentioned the Commander Pro is because a lot of these components that I mentioned will be actually plugging into the Commander Pro, and that will help with RGB effects. I do try to manage the cable while I'm working on the build, guys. That way when I get to the end, I have a better time trying to make sense of everything. So for now, I'm just gonna leave these plugged in, but first thing I'm gonna work on is the CPU block. Let's go ahead and open it and see what's inside. All right, structural manual, also have your warranty guide. So here's the CPU block, guys, and pretty simple. Here's the main unit right here. So you can see we do have that plug-in that will go into our Commander Pro. But all this is RGB as well, guys. If you look closely, you can see that the fins are inside, and that will essentially run over your CPU and keep everything cool. On the flip side, what a lot of these companies are doing, they're putting thermal compound directly on the block. So all I need to do essentially is just pull this plastic piece off, put it on top of my CPU, and I should be good to go. Now we do also have the mounting kit, and essentially this will go in the back of the board, so that will be right here. You'll run the screws through, and then this will go in the front, then you'll secure it. So let's go ahead and get that set up first. First thing you notice is that the one that comes in, when you line it up, it does not match the screw hole. So good thing about this is that they did send this guy. We'll need to take this mount off and put the new one in. So essentially this piece pops off like so. And then this, you push down, turn, that comes off. Now just very carefully, we'll put the new one back in. And now we should have the screw holes lined up. So let me go ahead and put the protector back on. So CPU block is installed, as you can see right there. And now we're gonna go ahead and get the GPU block installed on the Nvidia 2070 Super. So let's go ahead, we're gonna open this guy up. Beautiful card, guys. So all this will remain the same essentially. What we're gonna do is take out the fan portion, and then we're gonna go ahead and install the GPU block. So this is our GPU riser or PCIe extender, and where this is going to come in handy, guys, it's going to essentially allow me to be able to mount my graphics card sideways. It's going to go right here basically, come down right here back into the graphics card, if that makes sense. This is beautiful. It does have a flow indicator right here, which is essentially just a wheel, let you know that everything's running. You do have the heat sink right here, and like I said, liquid will flow all the way through, and that will keep your GPU cool. On the flip side, we have one connector here. This is for the RGB. Of course, we do have thermal compound here, here, and here, also right here. So essentially, I won't need to add anything. All I need to do is get this on top, place it on the graphics card, and I should be good to go. You can see I do have my ports here on the back. I do have the wiring for the RGB coming out the side. I went ahead and installed the plug in the back, and the 2 water lines will go in the top, in and out, and it will circulate through the system. Now I'm gonna go ahead and mount it in my case, but first I want to make sure that the CPU riser or the PCIe extender has been installed. So it's gonna go in like this, guys. So let's go ahead and get that installed first. It does take a little bit of force. There we go. So it is installed now. It does take a little bit of force, but once you get it in, we can work on getting the GPU installed, and it will sit something like that. So before we do that, we're going to take out the 2. Go ahead and unscrew these. This part will go ahead and slide out. So we do have an open slot right there, and I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. So as far as the GPU, I'm going to go ahead and flip this part out, guys. GPU is going to sit directly in. And it should go ahead and snap in as well. So there we go, all secure. So once that's secured, we're going to go ahead and make sure that this is sitting properly here. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and secure this screw as well. This is going to be the main power to our GPU. So let's go ahead and get it in. There's one. And this is going to be our 6-pin. So the next part of the installation is going to be the pump. This is the XD5 RGB from the Hydro series from Corsair. So let's go ahead and see what's in the box. Have a manual. Do have a mounting bracket, warranty guide. Do have some more mounting bracket. Look like we have a sensor right here. A lot of screws, plugs. Here's the pump itself. I'll put it to the side for now. We also have the bracket for the pump. So essentially this is going to sit right here, and after that, we gotta worry about the tubing, and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get it installed. Finally, I'm ready to start doing some tubing. But before I do, I want to show you some of the components that I have to actually make this work. Starting with this guy right here. Now you will need a heat gun, preferably one that stands up like this by itself. That way you can get it going, you can run your tubing over, and you can go ahead and bend it how you need it. So a heat gun like this is essential whenever you're bending, and I'll try to find some links to similar guns where you guys can go ahead and pick it up on Amazon. The other thing, and I had to actually switch this one out to make it match. You want to make sure you get something that match your actual tubing, and this is my bending kit. Now I have to go ahead and purchase a new one because the first one I had was not the right size. So I'll go ahead and link this one in the description. So in the kit, We do have our silicone insert. So this actually goes inside of the pipe like this. And that way when you start heating it up and bend it, the pipe doesn't collapse on itself. So these are needed. And we also have a hacksaw. And because the tubing that I have is acrylic, you will need a hacksaw. You can't cut it regularly like you would with this. This tubing, what I'll need is a hacksaw or tiny blade like this. If you guys already have a hacksaw, it should work. But this should be able to cut through. Also comes with some extra blades. Now we do have this little tool in another part of this kit. And what this does is, when you do make your cuts, you want to go ahead and smooth it out, guys. So you put it in, turn it like this, then you put it on the outside, you turn it a couple times, and what that does, it makes your edges smooth. That way when you actually push the pipe into the fit-in, it won't go ahead and damage the O-ring. You also have a file. File is necessary. You do have some bending angles, so this is your 90-degree bend. This is your 180, and this guy will give you a 45-degree bend. This should all fit this particular size piping, guys, so it shouldn't be a lot of play here. You want to make sure you get the right size for your tubing. Now, I did mention the tubing, guys. I do have 2 packs of 3, you can see here, and that should be plenty. However, if it's not, pretty cheap, pretty easy to purchase. We do have our coolant. This is clear. However, you can add your coloring afterwards, and like I said, this is all from Corsair, but you can't get coolant anywhere online, guys. So must have. Hopefully I have enough for this build. And we also do have the fill bottle. All right, so we do have some random fittings that you'll see me use. We do have adapter here. So this is going to be the backbone of your cooling kit, guys. So this is a fitting that will screw into multiple ports, including the pump itself as well as the radiator. It does have an O-ring on this side, and this is where the pipe will go. So what you'll do is you'll go ahead and take this off. All right, you do have an O-ring in this guy, and you do have an O-ring right here as well. So after your pipe is smooth, guys, you go ahead and put the top O-ring on like this. And you go ahead and squeeze this down, and it should have a nice firm connection like that. And then you can go ahead and just go ahead and screw it down like this. All right. Now this is very sturdy. This isn't going anywhere. This isn't going to leak. But that's why it's very important to make sure that you smooth off the edges. You do have a nice 90-degree cut, and that way it flushes flat against the actual fitting and everything will be smooth. So I can pull on this all day. It's not going to come out. And that's how you want to make sure your connections are solid and stable. I want to show you guys what I plan to do as far as my water loop. So this might look a little bit messy, but this is basic planning of how you want your system to run. So everything in your loop, you want to run it in one direction. So all the way out through the radiators, through the radiator again, and then back into the reservoir. So how I have this set up, guys, the yellow is going to be my output. So I'm going to run this up to the front radiator. Then I'm going to come out to the CPU. I'm going to go in from the CPU out to the top radiator. I'm going to come from the top radiator out to my graphics card. Then I'm going to go out from the graphics card back to the reservoir. So it's all in one line. And what I wanted to do is make sure that the CPU is cooled by this radiator in the front and the graphics card is cooled by this radiator in the top. So made everything a lot messy and made everything more difficult, but it is challenging, but I think it will pay off in the end. So let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. Let's bend some tubing and get this up and running. So here's the first piece of tubing that I made. Took a little bit of time, practice. This is gonna actually go like this. to the top radiator. And what I wanted to do is actually start building from the back to the front, and that makes it easier when I start putting in new parts of the cooling system, guys. So I'm gonna need 2 of these guys to get this in. So let's go ahead and get this first piece of tubing installed. Alright guys, so just went ahead and finished my last piece of tubing, which was connecting the GPU up to the actual top radiator. Now before I start filling with water, just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of what everything is, and let you guys know that it is officially alive. All I need to do is add fluid, which will be the most gut-wrenching experience in this whole build. So first thing, this little guy is just a junction point, and this is the main out from the actual pump. So this goes all the way up to the first stop in the radiator, front radiator, which does have a semi push and pull, fans in the front, fan in the back, and this will cool my CPU. So it goes into the pump, it comes out to the CPU, and it's going to go back out to the second radiator in the back, and out the radiator is going to come to the graphics card, and from the graphics card is going to go back to the reservoir. So for this part, I have a lot of paper towels. What I want to do is cover some of the main points that might see some leaks under the CPU, under the graphics card essentially. Just want to make sure that if I do get some leaks, it will be an early catch, and I can absorb it with a paper towel, and at the same time have time to fix it before it damages any of my components. Had to prime the pump, and for some people it might be a little bit different. I noticed with mine there's some air bubbles at the bottom, and I just kept flickering it, and the bubbles came up and eventually started pumping. So other people worked right out of the box, but that was my experience. So let's go ahead and we'll get more liquid in there. So flip it on. All right, you can see it's flowing. I want to catch it about right there, guys. At this point, we're going to open it. We're going to add more coolant in there. And while this is going on, of course, I'm checking for leaks. That's my biggest enemy at this point. Don't want to ruin those expensive components. All right, still filling. There we go. All right, so fill it about right there. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it on again. Trying to bring that water down a little bit more as well. There we go. We officially have liquid in the CPU. Bring it down a little bit more. All right. So far so good, no leaks. Let's go ahead and add some more water. Keep saying water. This is actually pre-mixed coolant, guys. So let me go ahead and we're gonna top it off some more. Whoops. Whoops again, holy shit. Making a mess here. Like I said, so far no leaks. We do have coolant at the CPU, both radiators, as well as the 2 fittings right here. This is my drain fitting, by the way, guys. Valve turned off right now. This is a must-have in my opinion. This comes in handy whenever you want to do maintenance on the system, drain the system. You need a way to let out the coolant, essentially. All right, so let me go ahead and add some more here. And we'll go ahead and turn it on. Should hit the GPU fully at this point. All right. Still no leaks. Keep it going. And we're almost all the way through. All right, maybe a couple more squeeze, we should be there. Let me go ahead and add the rest of this. Hope you guys are paying attention for leaks. So much going on. Just kind of got my fingers crossed, hoping for the best. But so far so good, guys. So far so good. Alright, flip the switch on again. We should start seeing some flow at the GPU. Just gonna cycle through, essentially get all the bubbles out of the system. Alright. Look like we're about stable. Getting some of the final bubbles out, but you can tell by the flow indicator right here at the GPU that the liquid is flowing, guys. And I'll let it go some more, but my biggest thing is just making sure we don't have any leaks in the system, especially right here around the GPU and the CPU. So far so good. Everything looks good. We do have liquid. There are some bubbles in there, but that's gonna work itself out over time. And we should be able to power it on, so let's go ahead. We're gonna flip the switch right here. All right, hit the power button. And that looks even better behind the glass. Amazing. We do have a button right here on the front that controls the RGB for the front lights. So if we push it, you'll see it gives us that beautiful effect that it initially came with. All right, so opposite side we'll put on the back panel, and I'll go ahead and get the operating system installed. So that's it for this build, essentially. I'd like to know what you guys think about this whole process. I know it took a couple of videos, and what I'll do, I'll try to compile those 5 or 6 videos together and just make one video. That way you guys can sit down. It is going to be kind of lengthy, but I wanted to give you guys just a option to watch it in segments, break it down a little bit. If you guys have any questions about this build, this PC, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.